I want you to bring your absolute, undivided attention to the profound, heavy physical tension that is currently resting right in the very center of your chest. If you are listening to these quiet words today, you are likely carrying the deeply exhausting, completely terrifying weight of an anxiously attached heart. We must begin by profoundly validating the visceral, almost unbearable agony of trying to forcefully control a romantic relationship. I want you to vividly remember the exact physical sensation of staring at the glowing, artificial light of your phone screen in a dark, silent room. Remember the frantic, racing heartbeat, the incredibly shallow breathing, and the desperate, agonizing panic that entirely consumes your mind when a specific person pulls away, becomes quiet, or simply asks for a brief moment of natural distance. In those terrifying, heavy moments, your highly conditioned ego goes into a state of absolute, violent survival mode. You begin to obsessively analyze every single word, every tiny shift in their tone of voice, and every prolonged silence, frantically searching for the hidden proof that you are about to be abandoned. We live under the incredibly tragic, deeply naive illusion that by constantly monitoring, aggressively managing, and tightly controlling the progression of our relationships, we are somehow protecting them. We genuinely believe that if we just hold on tight enough, if we demand enough rigid reassurance, and if we aggressively force the other person to constantly prove their absolute devotion, we can permanently lock the heavy iron doors and keep ourselves perfectly safe from the terrifying pain of a broken heart. But the profound, ancient wisdom of the Tao reveals a devastating, undeniable physical reality. The frantic, desperate energy of forced control is the exact, specific mechanism that actively destroys the profound love you are so terrified of losing. To deeply understand the tragic mechanics of this controlling behavior, I want you to vividly imagine standing completely alone on a beautiful, quiet beach, bathed in warm, golden sunlight. You reach down into the earth and you gently scoop up a handful of fine, dry, perfectly warm sand. As long as you stand perfectly still and keep your palm completely relaxed, gracefully open, and entirely flat, that beautiful mound of sand will rest safely in your hand forever. It requires absolutely no aggressive effort to keep it there. But the exact second your terrified ego whispers that the heavy wind might blow the sand away, the exact second you begin to panic and violently squeeze your fingers together into a tight, rigid fist to protect your prize, the physical reality of the sand immediately changes. The heavy, aggressive pressure of your own terrified grip forces the sand to violently escape through the narrow cracks between your tense fingers. The harder you frantically squeeze your hand, the faster the sand drains away, until you open your tired, cramping fingers to find absolutely nothing left. In your desperate, agonizing attempt to forcefully trap the relationship, you have suffocated the vital, living spirit of the connection, and your own terrified grip has actively caused the exact loss you feared the most. When we finally have the breathtaking courage to look at our tired, completely empty, clenched fists, we must inevitably confront the deeply toxic, highly romanticized cultural myths that taught us to squeeze our hands in the first place. To walk gently into this second, profoundly expansive space, we must look at the tragic delusion of complete, unbroken fusion. Modern society, heavily saturated with dramatic movies and anxious music, has aggressively sold us the deeply flawed idea that true, profound romantic love is the absolute merging of two separate human beings into one single, heavily tangled entity. We are taught that any request for quiet solitude, any desire for natural, personal distance, and any moments of prolonged silence are massive, terrifying red flags indicating that the love is slowly dying. We wrongly believe that to truly love someone, we must aggressively fill every single inch of their time, completely absorb their individual identity, and leave absolutely no empty space between us. But the ancient, incredibly grounded wisdom of Lao Tzu completely shatters this exhausting, suffocating narrative. In the profound 11th chapter of the Tao Te Ching, Lao Tzu asks us to look closely at the physical mechanics of a heavy wooden cartwheel. He observes that 30 strong, carefully carved wooden spokes converge perfectly to form the solid structure of the wheel. The heavy wooden spokes are absolutely necessary, yes. But Lao Tzu brilliantly points out that it is entirely the empty, hollow hole in the absolute dead center of the hub that actually allows the heavy wheel to smoothly turn. Without that specific, vital negative space, the wheel cannot function. It is simply a rigid, heavy, unmoving block of dead wood. The supreme usefulness of the wheel depends entirely upon the profound emptiness that it contains. Your romantic relationships operate on this exact, unshakable, physical law of the ancient universe. The deep, meaningful conversations, the shared physical intimacy, and the profound emotional support are the beautiful wooden spokes of your connection. But the relationship can only gracefully turn. It can only beautifully survive the long, unpredictable journey of human life if it possesses the absolute, vital empty space in the center. A profoundly healthy, truly Taoist love absolutely requires the quiet, breathing room of individuality. It requires the beautiful, unforced distance that allows two complete, sovereign human beings to simply exist without constantly stepping on each other's toes. When you violently refuse to allow this empty space, when you aggressively force complete fusion because of your own deep insecurities, the heavy wood of your ego aggressively grinds against the heavy wood of your partner's ego. The massive, agonizing friction creates a terrible, suffocating heat. The structure loudly splinters, the heavy wheel violently shatters, and the entire relationship crashes perfectly into the ground. You must fundamentally realize that empty space in a relationship is not a terrifying void waiting to pull your partner away. That quiet, breathing space is the absolute, mandatory oxygen that keeps the flame of genuine love beautifully and effortlessly alive. When we finally begin to deeply respect the profound, vital empty space required for a relationship to survive, we are immediately forced to confront another incredibly subtle, highly destructive form of violent control. To gracefully enter this third, deeply revealing space, we must look directly at the heavy, artificial timelines our frightened egos aggressively impose upon the people we claim to love. We do not simply want our partners to exist peacefully beside us. We secretly, desperately demand that they grow, evolve, commit, and respond on our exact, rigidly scheduled timeline. We write a massive, highly detailed, and entirely artificial script inside our own heads, dictating exactly when they should finally open up about their deep hidden feelings, exactly when they should permanently commit to our specific vision of the future, or exactly how quickly they should heal from their own profound childhood wounds. And the exact second they naturally fail to meet our rigid, heavy expectations, our terrified ego violently takes the wheel. We aggressively push them into heavy, exhausting conversations. We constantly nag, we frantically manipulate, and we desperately try to force their internal evolution, entirely ignoring the profound, natural, unhurried rhythm of their own human soul. To understand the immense, tragic violence of this controlling behavior, we must turn to a brilliant, profoundly grounding observation from the philosopher Alan Watts. I want you to vividly imagine standing in a quiet, sunlit garden, looking closely down at a beautiful, tightly closed flower bud. You desperately, passionately want to see the magnificent colors of the blooming flower. But your deeply anxious ego completely lacks the profound, quiet patience to wait for the natural change of the season. So, in a state of frantic, aggressive desire, you reach down with your heavy, clumsy human hands, and you violently try to force the delicate flower to open. You aggressively pull the tightly closed petals apart, desperately trying to force the beautiful bloom to happen right now, on your exact impatient schedule. But you already know exactly what happens to the flower. You do not get a magnificent blooming rose. you get a completely broken, torn, and permanently dead piece of organic matter. Your violent, aggressive impatience completely destroyed the exact, specific beauty you were so desperately trying to witness. This is the exact, devastating violence you commit against your partner when you aggressively try to force a serious commitment, a deep apology, or a profound emotional change before they are naturally, internally ready. To truly master the ancient art of love through the Tao, you must deeply understand how to apply the profound practice of Wu Wei, or effortless action, directly to your romantic relationships. We often deeply misunderstand the true nature of Wu Wei. We wrongly believe that not forcing things means we should simply become cold, completely apathetic, and entirely ignore our partners. But Wu Wei is the exact complete opposite of neglect. It is the absolute highest, most sophisticated form of spiritual and emotional intelligence. It is the profound, unshakable patience of the master gardener. Practicing Wu Wei in love means that you beautifully and consistently provide the rich, grounding soil of your own emotional stability. You gently offer the warm, nourishing sunlight of your unconditional affection, and you quietly provide the clear, life-giving water of your completely undivided attention. But once you have perfectly prepared the safe environment, you must do the most terrifying, deeply courageous thing a human being can possibly do. You must step completely back. You must drop your heavy, violent hands, entirely abandon your rigid, artificial timelines, and trust with absolute certainty that if the flower is actually meant to bloom in your specific garden, it will do so naturally, beautifully, and effortlessly, perfectly guided by its own quiet, internal seasons. When we finally realize the immense, tragic damage caused by violently tearing the petals of the flower, we are brought face to face with the most difficult, confronting truth of all. To enter this fourth, deeply transformative space, we must radically question the very nature of who we are actually loving. We walk through our romantic lives carrying a heavy, incredibly detailed, and completely artificial blueprint inside our minds. We project this massive, exhausting blueprint directly onto the human being standing right in front of us, and we aggressively demand that they conform to every single line of our imaginary script. The terrifying, deeply uncomfortable truth is that, very often, we do not genuinely love the actual, flawed, breathing human being sitting across from us at the dinner table. We are entirely in love with a rigid, highly idealized, and completely fake version of who we desperately want them to become. We treat the profoundly sacred act of human connection like a massive, endless construction project. We are constantly holding a heavy, exhausting clipboard, endlessly trying to fix, remodel, and heavily manage their behavior, their deep emotions, and their personal flaws. This constant, aggressive evaluation creates an atmosphere of suffocating, heavy judgment. Your partner can physically feel the undeniable, heavy weight of your constant disappointment. They can feel the rigid, anxious energy of your constant observation, and in response, they naturally, automatically build massive, incredibly thick, defensive walls around their own heart. You are violently pushing against their walls, exhausted and angry that they will not let you in, completely blind to the fact that your own aggressive, managing energy is the exact reason those heavy iron walls were built in the first place. You cannot force a human being to genuinely open their heart while you are actively standing over them, holding a heavy hammer of judgment. To completely dissolve this terrifying, exhausting friction, we must turn to the profound, quiet wisdom of the great Taoist master, Chuang Tzu. He taught a breathtakingly beautiful practice known as Xinzhai, which translates directly to the fasting of the heart, or the fasting of the mind. When you fast physically, you stop consuming heavy food to give your tired, overworked body the necessary space to rest, heal, and purify itself. The fasting of the heart is the exact same profound mechanism applied to your anxious, controlling ego You must deliberately, consciously stop feeding your mind the heavy, toxic diet of artificial expectations, rigid timelines, and constant heavy judgments about your partner. You must completely empty your mind of the desperate, exhausting need to aggressively fix them. You must starve the ego's violent desire to play the role of the architect in someone else's life. I want you to vividly imagine what would actually happen in your physical body if you simply drop the heavy clipboard today. Imagine looking at your partner not as a broken project that desperately needs your aggressive management, but as a complete, sovereign, and entirely natural phenomenon of the universe. You do not look at a massive, ancient oak tree in the forest and angrily complain that its heavy branches are not perfectly straight. You simply, beautifully appreciate the tree exactly as it organically grew. You do not argue with a river because it bends to the left instead of the right. When you completely surrender the violent need to change the person you love, an absolute miracle occurs in the physical reality of the relationship. Notice the profound, immediate relief in your own tired shoulders when you finally realize it is not your job to remodel a human soul. The massive, exhausting friction between your two egos completely evaporates. When your partner finally realizes that they are no longer being aggressively judged, when they physically feel the profound, quiet safety of your total, unshakable acceptance, they do not need to hold the heavy, exhausting shield anymore. Their massive defensive walls naturally, effortlessly fall to the ground. The profound, breathless beauty of the Tao is that love only flows completely and effortlessly when it completely stops being an exhausting remodeling project, and finally, gracefully becomes a quiet, spacious sanctuary of absolute acceptance. As we perfectly and gracefully enter the fifth and final space of our quiet refuge together, we must bring all of this vast, ancient wisdom directly into the heavy, physical reality of your tired, anxious body. We have clearly seen the tragic illusion of the clenched fist violently squeezing the dry sand. We have completely understood the profound, life-giving necessity of the empty space inside Lao Tzu's wooden wheel, and we have witnessed the devastating violence of aggressively tearing the delicate petals of the flower. We have finally learned the breathtaking peace of the fasting heart, completely dropping our heavy clipboards and surrendering the exhausting need to remodel the human soul standing in front of us. But to truly master the Tao of love, to truly allow your relationships to beautifully and effortlessly flow, you must perform the physical, terrifying, and profoundly courageous act of total surrender. I want you to close your eyes right now and vividly imagine that you are holding a massive, incredibly thick, and terribly heavy woven rope in your two tired hands. The thick fibers of the heavy rope are violently digging into your skin. Your knuckles are completely white from the immense, agonizing pressure, and your shoulders are burning with a sharp, blinding lactic acid. You are aggressively pulling on this massive rope with every single ounce of your vital life force, desperately trying to physically drag the person you love closer to you. You genuinely, deeply believe that if you let go of this incredibly heavy rope for even a single terrifying second, the person on the other end will instantly turn around and walk away into the dark mist forever. Your entire romantic existence has been completely reduced to this highly aggressive, deeply exhausting game of emotional tug-of-war. But right now, in the absolute quiet safety of this specific, beautiful moment, I am asking you to do the most terrifying, profoundly liberating thing a heavily conditioned human mind can possibly imagine. I want you to stop aggressively pulling. I want you to look down at your tired, bleeding hands, and I want you to slowly, deliberately uncurl your stiff fingers. Drop the massive, heavy rope entirely onto the solid ground. Expose your vulnerable chest completely to the open air, and let your heavy arms fall completely dead and relaxed at your sides. As you finally stop fighting, I want you to notice a breathtaking, absolutely miraculous reality: the profound, unshakable trust of the universe. You must deeply and fundamentally realize that you absolutely cannot lose a profound, genuine love that inherently belongs to you. And with equal, unshakable certainty, you must realize that you absolutely cannot keep a person who genuinely wants to leave, no matter how violently you tighten your terrified grip. When you violently force a person to stay, you do not have their heart. You only have a hostage. The supreme, breathtaking beauty of a truly Taoist relationship is the profound peace of absolute freedom. True, unshakable love is not a locked iron cage. It is a completely open, beautiful wooden door. When you drop the heavy rope, when you completely stop forcing the outcome, you are finally giving your partner the profound, sacred opportunity to freely, willingly choose you. When a human being stands entirely free in the open space, completely unbound by heavy expectations, entirely unmanaged by your anxious ego, and they look across the quiet room and deliberately choose to walk toward your open hands, that is the exact moment you experience true, undeniable love. You do not need to constantly fight the heavy current of your own relationship. You do not need to desperately manipulate the river just to ensure you are not left behind. The massive, intelligent current of the Tao knows exactly how to perfectly navigate the sharp rocks. All you have to do is open your hands, look deeply into the eyes of the person you love, and beautifully, peacefully surrender to the exact rhythm of the water. If this quiet sanctuary has offered your heavily exhausted mind a moment of genuine, profound physical relief today, I warmly invite you to subscribe to our channel. We are carefully building a peaceful, unhurried refuge here, a completely safe place to rest your anxious heart, far away from the screaming, controlling demands of the modern world. Before you close this video and step gently back into the natural, beautiful flow of your relationships, I have one final, simple request for you. Please leave a comment below. Tell me, using just a few quiet words, what is the heavy, exhausting rope of control that you are permanently dropping to the ground today? Naming the profound struggle you are surrendering is the absolute final step in letting the current carry it beautifully away. Drink a large glass of cool water. Unclench your tired jaw. Lay your hands completely open on your lap. Breathe deeply. You are perfectly safe to let go.